ladies. Welcome to this week's episode of Sisterhood Stories. Last week, we got to talk about the importance of forgiveness. We had some amazing ladies join us, and if you haven't been able to catch that episode, I would really encourage you to, after this one is finished, to catch up on that. But this week, I have three ladies who are joining me, and we're going to talk all about what it looks like to live a life that is fulfilled, but not only being fulfilled, but also being fulfilled as singles, because I know that there are several ladies out there who we experience that in different parts of our lives. And I just want us to bring light to the situation, and I want us to celebrate this season that we're in. So I've invited three amazing ladies to join me, and they're going to go ahead and introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Hartley. I am a first-year seminary student at Biola University. I'm getting my Master's of Divinity in Spiritual Formation, and it's an honor to be here.
Hi, I'm Karen, and I've lived most of my life in Fayetteville. Went to Root Elementary, Woodland Junior High, Fayetteville High School, the university, and then I taught elementary school at the school where I went, Root, for 36 years, and I guess that's it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Hi, I'm Ann, and I am originally from West Memphis, Arkansas, but I have been in Fayetteville since I graduated from high school. I went to the university. I taught school also, elementary school, for 36 years with Karen at Root Elementary. I'm a mom, and I'm a grandma, and I guess that's about all about me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so the topic today is living single and fulfilled. So tell me a little bit about your singleness journey, because you are all in different parts of that. And so,
Cool, yeah. So I am 22. I've never been married or anything. I'm just young and single, and there's not much else to it other than that.
I got married when I was 32, and I was married for 7 years, had a stepson, then got divorced, and I've been single ever since. So about 25 years I've been single. I've had one serious relationship in between there.
yeah.
Well, I was married for 36 years, 37 years, and I married my high school sweetheart, and I have been divorced for 7.5 years. So I'm 7.5 years single
Single.
and happy.
What are some of the stereotypes that you face as single women? Whether it's every day, it could have been something that you've faced in the past. So just talk a little bit about that.
When I was first divorced, being single felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I felt like I had like an S on my chest, that I was single after all those years. So you must have done something wrong to be single. And it took me a while to really accept my singleness. But being single, I've reached out and made so many new friends, so many wonderful friends, married and single. And I'm living a very fulfilled and happy life.
I love that.
When I was single, younger, in my 20s, there was that stereotype. I meet people and they say, "You're single? Why are you still single?" Making me feel like something was wrong with me.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I just haven't met the right person yet. And then after I got divorced, it was kind of the same thing. Like, well, when are you going to date and get married again? And it's like, I'm not ready for that. I'm okay with where I am now. And, that makes it hard too, because people expect certain things. And then another stereotype too, or just a reality, I guess more than a stereotype, was when you're single, just people taking advantage of you in, like, when you have people come to your house to service your air conditioner, etc. Oh, you're a single woman. I feel like, or a mechanic, I feel like sometimes they think, oh, we can take, her for more money or that sort of thing. But as I've gotten older, they don't try that as much.
One of the weirdest stereotypes that I've been faced with is a lot of people have, like, emphatically encouraged me to not go to seminary to get my MRS degree. And that seems
Remind if they're not familiar with that.
So an MRS degree is when you go to school to meet a husband so that you can drop out.
Got it.
And
Yep.
I would think at this point, like with graduate school, like that's not the goal, and that seems pretty clear. But the number of people who said that to me was a little ridiculous. Mostly older men with good intentions, like father-like figures in my life, but it was still a little weird. But yeah, there's just always the question of like, oh, are you talking to anybody? Are you dating anybody? And when the answer is no, then like, I'm content with that. I'm good with that, because when the Lord wants to bring somebody along, He will, and I'm not stressing about His timing right now. But being asked that constantly is a little bit like, okay, is something wrong with me? Like, is it me? When it's not, you know? So I think another thing too, and maybe this is more because I'm in my 20s, sex is talked about so much, and there's like this expectation of like people who are living a single lifestyle are not being sexually fulfilled. And I think that comes from a mis-elevation of sex, because we have these wonderful examples of single people like Paul and Jesus, who were completely fulfilled in every way in their life on earth, who never like had sex at all. And so I think that that's a cultural part of the conversation that often gets like, people don't want to talk about it because sex is uncomfortable to talk about. Or people don't want to talk about sex around single people because they don't want to make single people uncomfortable. But I think that that's something that needs to be talked about, because sex is not required to live a fulfilled life. It's a beautiful part, I'm sure it's fun, but like it's not part of my life, and it doesn't need to be part of my life either. So those are probably the biggest things that happen like in my social circle conversations.
People will ask you, are you satisfied being alone? Are you satisfied being single? Do you get lonely? Are you happy? When are you going to look for someone else? That's an uncomfortable situation, because I'm not lonely and I'm not unhappy. I'm real happy.
And how many people feel those things inside of marriages, right?
Exactly.
So, both of you ladies have been married. Did you ever feel those things inside of your marriage?
I did feel lonely.
Yeah.
And I felt unappreciated at times. I had a good marriage for many, many years, but yes, I felt very lonely, especially after my kids grew up and left the nest. I mean, I felt like I was alone.
Yeah. And I think that too, that there's this concept, and you kind of all have hit on it, but is there anything specifically, like, are there lies that you believe about yourself being a single person? Because I think that whether you're single, whether you're married, whether you're dating, whether you're somewhere in between, as a woman, there are things that we believe about ourselves. And I think that, and we're kind of having this conversation too, that no matter where you are in life, we all feel the same way, but at different times. And, Hartley, you were saying that, Jesus felt these things, right? Paul felt these things. We don't necessarily, whatever the conversation is, whether it's around sex, singleness, whatever, we all feel these things. So if we can almost normalize these things just as women and kind of take out all of the labels, I think that could be more fulfilling for all of us, right? Of just like, and maybe we just need to start like Googling questions that we can ask instead of, are you dating? Or, just like, let's talk about something else. But what are some of the lies? So going back, what are some of the lies that you've specifically believed about yourself as a single person?
Well, I'm going back to Hartley. I was 20 years old when I married. I married my high school sweetheart. I've only ever had one partner. So I think a lie or a question I have is, as a 65-year-old, am I desirable? That's been a question I've asked myself a lot. Will anybody or does anybody adore me?
Yeah.
One of the big things for me that I've, over the course of the last 4 years, since basically I started going to the link, realized is that my ministry is not limited to the time that I'm married. And so that I can be a fully present follower of Jesus in my friends' lives, speaking truth in their lives, sometimes uncomfortable truths, sometimes encouraging truths. I can be a minister in that sense, like all believers are called to be, without a partner in that. And I think that there is this expectation sometimes of women who want to be who want to have a career in ministry, that they need to be married so that it's not a temptation for them or a temptation for the men in their church to be in relationship together in a different kind of way. But basically, that's just been a lie in my life is, well, do I need to find a husband so that I can be on church staff somewhere? And the answer is no, because God wants to use me as I am right now, and he has me in this season for a very specific purpose. So it's a lie that perpetuated itself for a long time and has been, there's been some truth spoken to it fairly recently. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
One lie that I've had to say is not true is that, am I good enough?
Yeah.
And because I've been single for so long, but it's like the longer you're single, then it's like it's harder because you get set in your ways, and I want to do things my way, and it's so nice that I can do what I want to do. But I've learned that I'm enough. I don't have to have someone else, and I think people now see that, so they don't ask me those questions as much anymore. Are you happy? I think they see that I am.
Yeah.
So
That's
I just wanted to add, we talked about this a little bit in one of my classes recently, that this idea of having like a soulmate or a partner comes from Greek philosophy, and it doesn't come from the Jewish tradition. And while marriage is something that God blesses and celebrates, he calls us to be full people on our own, and within him we are enough. He equips us with what we need. He equips us to be entire human being followers of Jesus without another person. So I think that that's really like a secure place to land, that a lot of people in relationships would do well to find in themselves as well, and find like with the help of the Holy Spirit. So
yeah.
I was going to add on that. I mean, that was one reason I got married. I was at that time, that's later, getting married, 32 years old. And, I thought I was in love. I loved the person, but he wasn't the right person for me. And I realized that not long into the marriage. But it was just expected. Yeah. It's like you get married. And I guess what I learned from that is don't rush into doing that again just to say you're married.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's cool because everything that you guys talked about, all of the lies, or most of them that you talked about, you spoke truth over yourself. Like, you are desirable, right? You are enough. You are fulfilled being single. You are all of these things. And so how did you come to that conclusion? So all of these lies are being thrown at you. So what was it? A group of people around you? Was it, your own devotion to the Lord? Like, what made you guys come to the conclusion to put truth to these lies?
Well, as I said, mine took a lot of years to do it. It was time, but having the right people around me, my friends and my family, and then the last 7 years having this church has really helped me too, and feeling more fulfilled.
That's awesome.
one thing for me has been being in healthy community, kind of like you said, being at this church. Right now I'm serving in transfer, which is one of the most fun things I've ever done. And I'm surrounded by this community of young adults who are all passionate about leading youth. And in order for us as young adults to encourage youth in their identities in Christ, we kind of have to be secure in our own, because you can't really lead someone somewhere you've never been before. I mean, I guess you could try, but I feel like it would get messier, you know? So in order for me to speak truth over a 10th grader who's experiencing feelings of self-doubt or feelings of inadequacy, it's most helpful for me to come from a place of, I was there and I've been where you are, but look at where I'm at now. Like, I've spent this time with Jesus. I've concentrated prayer time over this topic. I've spent time in the Word, reminding myself of the truths that God speaks of me and the truths that God speaks of himself, because I feel like also there's a little bit of a self-centered culture too sometimes when we talk about singleness and relationships, where like, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? How am I doing? How am I feeling? When it comes down to it, we're all called to a greater purpose than that. And so when we're so focused on serving ourselves in this world, we're the most miserable, and when we can step outside of ourselves for a second and say, okay, this is what God's doing in my community, in my relationships, in my friendships, in the people around me, and I'm going to partner with him in that, then there's less of an identity crisis, you know?
Yeah.
You're not as worried about like, oh, well, what does that person think of me? Like, do I need to be concerned about this person's opinion of me? Because I know like I'm walking in the calling God's given me, so.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
I really feel like being involved in Bible studies and this church have helped me through the hurt and the disappointment of my marriage ending. And I have just been so comfortable and so happy with the relationships that I've formed. And I also, I was able, since I divorced at 20, married at 20 and divorced in my 60s,
Yeah.
50s, late 50s. It took me all those years to discover who am I? And
Yeah.
I know who I am now. And I'm so much more capable of accomplishing things that I never thought I would do. I went back and got my master's degree in my late 50s. I can travel now. I can get on an airplane and do what I want to do and go see my grandbabies. And I just feel very fulfilled and very happy.
Yeah. It's just radiating off of you guys. It's just one of those things that, yeah. So, okay, last question for the day. What would you guys say to another single lady? So, whether she is, early 20s, whether she is, later 60s, 70s. So, what encouragement do you guys have for them in whatever season that they're currently in?
Reach out to your friends, especially someone that you know that is either in that situation or has been in that situation. That's really how Karen and I became such close friends, because I had never been single and Karen had been single for many years, and she just took me in and helped me through bad situations. So seek out your friends. The second thing is go to church, seek out the Lord, seek out the Word.
Yeah.
That was also my strongest thing.
That's awesome.
I would have to agree with what Ann said is, friends, family, your church, they're all ways to help you feel encouraged and better about yourself.
I think I would say take advantage of this time, especially if you're younger. This is the time in your life when you're going to be able to hang out with as many people as you want to, because everybody's schedules are crazy, and finding a coffee time here and there is easier, I think, now than in the future when families are involved, when kids are involved. So take advantage of that and build real relationships with real people who are single, so that when or if you do end up in a relationship or building a family, that you have people who you already have foundations with, so that you can come back to like the truths that they could speak into your life and the truths that you can speak into their life. I would say just take advantage of that time to cultivate relationship. And again, reach out to other single people, be friends with other single people. I have these amazing friends there are lots of single guys in my friend group, there are lots of single girls in my friend group. I spend individual time with each one of them with no expectations other than let me be present with you and let me hear what God's doing in your life and how you're doing emotionally. And it's a really beautiful time that I recognize right now I won't have for my entire life. So just take full advantage of it, and also understand that you're called to a larger purpose than whatever relationship status you're in. And that's so important. Just taking yourself out of the center of the universe is critical in order to feel satisfied in whatever season you're in.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. Do any of you guys have any closing thoughts that you want to?
Two Bible verses that really helped me.
Okay.
And the first one, I have it on a great big huge Hobby Lobby plaque in my entryway, but it's Joshua 1:9. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And the other one that I have is Joshua 1:9. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future.
Yep. That's so good.
One of mine was Philippians 4:11. I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. And Proverbs 14:30. A heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones. And the reason I chose that one is, when I was single the first time around, I was envious of other people.
Yeah.
And especially, I did not have children, and I was envious of that too. So this one really helps me too.
I don't have it written down, so I'll probably butcher it. But Ephesians is my favorite letter. And everybody should go read Ephesians because it's so good. But in Ephesians 2, Paul says that it's by grace that we have been saved through faith, not works. And I think that in our culture, so many people feel like pursuing a relationship is something that will sanctify them. And there is a sanctification process that comes along with being in a relationship with anybody. Like being in close proximity with any human being is going to be a bit refining, and it's going to be a bit testing. But it's important to remember that the work of being in a relationship or the identity of being in a relationship is not where our salvation comes from. Our salvation comes by grace through faith alone. So
Yeah. That's good. Well, ladies, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to not only encourage me in this season, but to encourage the ladies of CLC. So, ladies, if you guys would like to be in touch with them, we'll be able to put out their information, their names. You can talk to them on social media or whatever that looks like. So, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to catch you next week. Cut.